Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Can you believe it is almost autumn, which means that I had to turn my light on for this video because it's starting to get dark early. So I really am excited to do this video because I am so inspired right now, and I'm going to post it on YouTube also. So this video is about parenting, putting your children first, and generation curses. So it's a deep topic, and can I just say I am not a parent at all. I am aware of generation curses and I can see through it. Obviously I don't know every single aspect of generation curse, but I understand that patterns do repeat, and it is hard for some people to break them, and you always get someone in the family that is a generation curse breaker. So they're the ones that are going through a lot of stuff trying to break it, and we need to support those as much as we can because you just never know what they're going through. So let me start with putting your children first. So this can be aimed more towards moms because I do apologise about the background noise. We always have people on our streets like driving around on motorbikes just in the middle of the night also, which is crazy. So let me get back onto topic. So putting your children first, this is very important for moms because moms do have a lot of pressure on them, and sometimes you have single moms that are having to be a mom and a dad at the same time. So hopefully if any fathers are watching this video, this can be aimed towards you also. So once you have a child, everything revolves around that child, believe it or not. You may feel like you are doing your best, but sometimes it's not always the case. I am not here to judge anyone, but your children are basically able to identify how you can break those generation curses. And it's not always clear as day, but I find that a lot of parents, once they become parents, they become very stubborn and stuck in their ways. Obviously they may have been that way before, but your children are basically your future, and they can always know what needs to be done to break those curses. So let me start off. I could give tons and tons of examples of how people should put their children first, but one of the things that children can identify is if their father or your new partner or anything like that is a bad decision. So, as you know, sometimes we get involved with someone and they are not good for us, and we choose to ignore the red flags. We choose to settle down with this person, we choose to have kids with them, but for some reason whatsoever, the child does not like the dad. And it's usually because you have ignored your instincts and what's resonating with you, and your child is trying to identify that. And if you don't put your child first and consider that, you will suffer the consequences, and that's how patterns start to begin. So for example, if your child doesn't approve of the man you chose or their father, you may discover a pattern of the male figure. Maybe he didn't like his father either, so that's another pattern that repeats. Or maybe you didn't like your father, and then when you do have a child, that is then inputted into the child when that child is conceived. So yeah, so that's one example. Another example is, as parents, we can create wounds into children. We can create wounds in our children, for example. So it could be wounds like neglect, rejection, the list goes on. And sometimes the child is battling with a generation curse, so it's something that you should have healed from, but because you didn't heal from it, you've now breeded that into the child. So a good example is, I'm going to use a friend as an example. She's no longer my friend anymore. She's been going through some really deep stuff. She's a parent of two, and a lovely, lovely soul. But obviously I was trying to help her identify her traumas and things that she needs to work through. But as you know, people deal with things in their own timing. So she has a child, and she was going through something at the time when I was on the phone to her. But her child kept screaming for her attention. She kept screaming, "Mom, mom, mom." She was ignoring her child, and I said, "Please don't ignore your child." Obviously, I'm not an expert in parenting, but I was like, "Do not ignore your child. Ignore your child." She's like, "I'm not." I said, "Just hug your child. Tell your child I love you." And she said, "I am. I'm hugging her." And afterwards, we had a discussion about that day, and it turned into a misunderstanding on her side, which is fine. We all misunderstand each other sometimes. And I feel like she interpreted what I was saying in the wrong complete direction. And obviously I was trying to help her, but I think what it was, I was trying to identify to her that she is neglecting her child. Even though she loves her child and she always talks to her in a nice, calm manner, which I really love, um, she was neglecting her when times were rough. And I think the hard thing about being a parent is you have to be a parent all the time when you're in the presence of that child. And I think what happened was, because she's dealing with so much at the time, the needs of that child was then neglected and it was forgotten about. And the thing is, people should always put their children first, because if she put her child first, the problem that was happening at the time was not really important, because it was someone on her phone that upset her. So obviously that person wasn't there face to face. A child was face to face with her. A child was literally there by her side. So a child should have been given number one priority. But obviously it's easy for me to say that because you don't know how it feels to be a parent and how it feels in that current situation. But it's so important as parents to keep checking in with ourselves and keep checking. Am I attending to my child's needs? What could I do to, uh, what can I do to, what's the word, achieve, or um, what can I do to fulfill their needs? That's the word. What can I do to fulfill their needs? And I think as parents, they do become very distracted with life. They do lose um that connection with their child. Sometimes it's almost like they are connecting with their child when they think it's right, but when something else is happening on the outside, they lose touch with it. And it's very tricky for parents. And sometimes your child can vocal that to you. That's where generation curses get broken. Your child can vocal that to you, and it's so important to not be offended easily as a parent, because friends will advise you, family will advise you, and your child will advise you. And even though it may not be what you want to hear, you have to learn to not take things so personal, because there's patterns and curses that need to be broken in the family. And if you don't break them, the pattern continues, because then you're teaching the child. For example, if you experience neglect and you are a parent, instead of breaking that pattern, you are then acting as the caregiver that you had to your now child, and your child has now become you, and your child is trying to vocal to you, "Hello, you're neglecting me." They won't say in those exact words. They may act it out in tantrums, or they may cry, they may say some mean stuff, and that's them vocaling it to you about their needs not being met. But because as adults we sometimes get very offended and we think that we're not like our parents or our caregivers, that's when we need to come down to planet Earth and listen to our children and think, wait, how can I meet that child's needs? How can I become a better parent? That's what we need to do as parents. Please put your children first. Please do not put the father or, your new partner in front of your children. You should work with your children to break the generation curses. It's so important. Please educate your child right from wrong. Please heal, so you do not project onto that child your past, your traumas. please be present with your child, and please know that every day is a learning curve, and where you cannot be a perfect parent. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, but through communication and constantly connecting with your child, even if it's on a daily basis or a weekly basis, it's so important. Say sorry to your child, let your child know that you love them. It is so important. Obviously we cannot always meet the child's needs, but let's break the patterns. We know how it felt to be neglected or rejected as a child. So let's do the healing work, or let's work together, or listen to your child to know the directions you need to take. And listen to those people that do offend you in terms of parenting. Don't take it personal, and take it as a lesson to know how you can use this experience or this feedback or this criticism to become a better parent for your child. And that's how you break generation curses, and that's how you also grow as a person also. So let's keep growing. Obviously I'm not here to judge because I'm not a parent, and I can imagine how tough it is, and sometimes you don't have the time or the patience to work on changing, but let's keep doing that, and let's keep working on creating a strong bond with our child. And whatever is bridging you apart from you and your child, chop that bridge down, bring your child closer together, because your child is your future. Your child is a part of you, an extension. I shouldn't say extension because that's using narcissism, but that child is going to be affected by your decisions and the things that you say. So you need to constantly heal through that child, or do you know what I mean? So heal, break generation curses, learn from your mistakes, and keep teaching that child that you're willing to change and willing to grow, just so that child can learn the same in their adulthood, and they won't give up and feel like, oh, I'm no good, I'm not a good person, and just prevent them from developing that low self-esteem, that they can feel like, I can do better, I can be like my parent. Make it easy for make it easy for the parent to be able to show you respect, because you're also showing them respect. That's very important. Your child is your number one priority, so you should always put them first. You may feel a sense of regret that becoming a parent, your life has, been put on hold, but that's fine, that's okay, because at the end of the day you are investing in something that's going to be your future. Because when you're old, your child will become you, and you want them to be a better you. Obviously they won't be exactly like you, but it's very easy to take on the negative traits of someone if you do not unlearn them. Even if you identify the negative traits in that person, you may also, if you don't heal, you will act it out onto somebody else. And this is why we need to work together to break toxic traits. So let's work together as a community to be supportive and support each other in parenting, and support children's needs that need to be fulfilled. Also, if anyone wants to talk more about this, can leave a comment in the comment section below. If anyone has any advice for those that need to break generation curses, or that need to put their children first, put anything in the comment section below that's related to this topic. If there's anything that you do want me to talk about in the future, please let me know also. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry if it was all over the place, but I try my best to get all the points out there. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.